How important is collaboration?
Oh, collaboration is you can be the next Stravinsky, and if you can't collaborate, you're done. You have to be able to collaborate. No, I would have to say that film composer egos have to be put in check. You have to leave them at the front door when you walk in to spot the movie. You have to leave them at the front door when you go in for your first show and tell. Everything, it's a director's party, whichever party it may be, the director, the producer, the studio, the music department. You're there to try to accommodate their vision of the movie. They've hired you to try to find a voice for their movie. Fortunately, in my case, I have to deal with the temp, but I'm always trying. I'm starting something now, and I'm struggling with the temp. It's like, whoa, this is going to drive me crazy. I don't see this right for this movie. How can I embrace the essence of it, but make it me? And that's the toughest part. Is I paid so much attention to wanting to understand the film from the temp the director's chosen. I don't want to imitate it. I dread that. But at the same time, I feel like I have to be cognizant of it, or I could get in big trouble here. I divide my scores into basically two categories. Those where I was actually encouraged, or in some cases given a movie that had no temp. Okay? I've had a handful of those. Or the temp has been so bad, they've said, pay absolutely no attention to it. Those scores, of course, you're on your own. And interestingly, those are some of my favorite scores, because I had to deal with the picture in a direct manner, in a way that you don't when there's temp. So the ones that have temp, and that constantly talk about the temp when you're spotting the movie, I put those in a category that I call them what might have been. What might the score have been if there was no temp? I will never know, because I had to embrace the temp and try to modify it to make it me. And the question is, did you do it okay? One of the criticisms that's thrown at film music today is that too many of the scores sound like, third generation cloning of another score. There was the original version, then there was a copy of that. Now this is a copy of that copy, and uniqueness is vanishing, and that's the main difference. That's one of the main. We're talking about the difference when I started and now. Yeah, when I started, Jerry. And what Jerry was doing was different than what Jerry Goldsmith, and what was different than what John Williams was doing, which is different than what Leonard Rosenman was doing, which is definitely different than what Lalo Schifrin was doing, definitely Elmer Bernstein. I'm just naming some of the film names, guys, that I knew off the top of my head. They all had a unique voice.
Exactly. And I think when we talk about temp scores, for me, one of the issues is that the uniqueness of the composer, it gets limited because you're presented a third clone version of something they already want.
Exactly.
So I think for me, we're on the outside, we make instruments, but I do see a sameness that I didn't used to see. I mean, you mentioned like Goldsmith, his integration of synthesis was really his own, really unique that way. And each of you guys had such a unique voice.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. It was starting in my generation. It was less obvious. I still think the temp thing became. I've never really sat down and talked with Jerry about what they did with the temp scene with him. I know with Elmer Bernstein, because he and I had conversations about this. He would not go to see a movie if they had a temp score. He would say, I'm happy to work on your movie. I would love to work on this movie, and I'm sure I'll come up with something that's very exciting, and I want to do a great job. But I'm not going to look at your movie. You got temp music in it. Take it out. Herrmann, as you probably heard, would go to screenings, and if they were stupid enough to have left the temp, he wouldn't request it in advance. He'd just assume it wasn't going to be there. The minute if the main title came up and there was temp music, he would scream. and slammed the door on his way out. You know, you can't do that. You cannot do that anymore. I have a memory. The film was The Dark Half. That was a George Romero movie, and I was thrilled to be on it. But, you know, he wanted me to see the feat, hired me. I was nervous. I mean, George Romero, great horror director, as we know. And I was invited, you know, I was going to go see the movie for the first time. And I called my agent and I said, hey, he said, could you check to see if maybe I can watch it without the temp music? And my agent said to me, you want me to do what? I said, could you just check, maybe I can watch it for the first time without temp music? He said, shut your mouth, get in the car, and you listen to that. You go there right now with whatever they've got in the temp music. And I learned my lesson really quickly there is, shut your mouth, go there, listen, watch the movie with whatever they've got in the temp. Now, I do with directors that I know. If they ask me, or if a director asks me, says, gee, I'd love to see the film the first time without the temp. Is that possible? Usually they only do one temp dub with the music and the sound effects and production all on a stereo track, so it usually doesn't happen. But yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I do not blame the composer for this. I'm not saying the composers are less imaginative. I'm saying they're being forced to have to deal with the temp music, which could be third generation cloning of something that was kind of cool the first time around.